We got a barn burner for you today, guys. We've got Lyle Barnett and Ken Quartuccio Jr., our finalists from the U.S. Street Nationals presented by M&M Transmission. Race 2 of the Drag Illustrated Winter Series presented by J&A Service. Guys, let's do this deal. Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered, this is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport, drag racing. Prove me wrong, I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. Hope you're doing well out there. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Round Ye Drag Racing Water Cooler, if you will. We got a hell of a show for you guys today. In about a half hour, we're going to be joined by the winner and points leader of the Drag Illustrated Winter Series and the winner of the U.S. Street Nationals this past weekend at Bradenton Motorsports Park, the one and only Ken Quartuccio Jr., who has been on an absolute tear, went to the final round of the season opening race, the Winter Series season opening event, the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals, found his way back to the final round at the U.S. Street Nationals and got the job done over Lyle Barnett, a dear friend but fierce competitor. We're going to be joined by both of those guys here in just a few short minutes. We're obviously going to spend a little bit of time breaking down this past weekend's events, going through all the different various happenings. Man, we had a hell of a weekend down there. It was and undoubtedly, I would say, the most challenging weekend that we have had as a business since we got into the promotion scene. It was one thing after another, but we managed to get through it. The good Lord blessed us with some sunshine and good weather, and we had three incredible days at BMP, and I can't wait to break it down with my partners here on the show, Mike Carpenter, JT Hudson. What's up, boys? You guys make it home safe and sound?
We did, man.
What's up, dude?
Yeah, somehow I made it. I'm the only one that escaped Florida with absolutely no tan, which is not surprising.
Oh, bro. I was getting texts on Sunday afternoon. I was getting texts like, buy sunscreen, buy sunscreen, buy sunscreen. It's like, bro,
you were red, man.
He doesn't believe in sunscreen, people.
He likes
the
to
reason
get
I
that.
came.
He's got to build a base. As he builds that base here in the winter.
It's
in
just
Florida.
like prepping a racetrack.
Yeah.
I really like to go into these deals, kind of get a base sunburn that I can work off of for the rest of the season, man. And
I'm not coming to visit you when you got skin cancer on your damn forehead.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I have been getting a little more aggressive, but I ain't getting some like 50 SPF. I got
that's what I got the 50. That's
the temperature was so low that you didn't even really think about it, right?
No, the first day
I
we
hadn't
were like,
thought about it at all.
Yeah. I think we were like windburned and sunburned, and it was cold.
I know
outside.
on Friday I was definitely windburned more so than sunburn, like by a lot, because it hurts differently. Like I'm pretty tuned into sunburns. Like I know this sensation quite well, and it was definitely different. It was a departure from my normal, the sensations I get as my skin becomes a golden brown cookie tan, which is kind of always the goal. But real quick before we dive into this, I do want to say
I did have the best Uber driver in Florida. So
who has the best Uber driver?
I did.
Oh,
was
yes.
it?
Owen is right.
A certain Jimmy Dale in a pretty mean sounding Corvette.
Yeah,
bro.
pretty rowdy.
Leave it
And
to-
he drove that thing from Texas to all the way to MPMC in Florida, and then over to the race. I never even
It's
thought
like
about
a Stroker 408 LS deal with a 6-speed and like, the old dump truck, triple disc clutch. Like it sounds like a pro mod. It was pretty hilarious, man.
Yeah,
seeing him roll up to the racetrack.
like, in an elite parking too, which is kind of funny. I was, we probably woke everybody up at about 1:30 in the morning cutting donuts out in front of the hotel, and then
Yeah, we
definitely
were really making a lot of inroads with the hotel, JT. I mean, I felt like Alicia, we'd won these people over. And then you guys were out there ripping donuts in the parking lot in the middle of the night. And I'm not sure how much that set us back, but we've been working for a hot minute to get a hotel partner down there in Bradenton. That's one of the biggest challenges. We have an incredible infrastructure there, lots of hotels and restaurants and all the things that you need to have a successful event. But it's a real challenge because those hotels stay steady booked. So they don't necessarily need a bunch of drag racers. They've got soccer players and lacrosse players and everything else that are traveling down there. And so they're not like especially helpful when it comes to like, hey, man, you want to cut us a deal on this stuff? It just doesn't typically pan out like that. But I do, real quick, before we dive into any more funny stuff, I do just want to send a message out to the masses. My dad had a massive stroke this morning. I'm headed to Missouri as soon as we get this show done to go check on my pops. But if you guys could keep him in your prayers, my dad is, he's probably the only person I know that loves drag racing as much or more than I do. He's made a lot of friends in drag racing over 40 some odd years in the sport, all across the country, buying and selling stuff. Wheeling and dealing, running his auto repair shop, Buck Brothers Sunny Slope in Kirksville, Missouri, a place that I pretty much earned my education and gained most of the life experience that I have. And he's once again fighting the good fight. He's had one ordeal after another, it would seem, but he's back in trouble. And I would appreciate it if all of y'all keep him in your thoughts and prayers. We're going to roll out here first thing and here in just a little bit and go do our best to take care of him and support him. But anyways, if you could keep my pops in your prayers, it'd mean a lot to me. But let's get into this, guys. It's so much to cover. I think we should talk about really just the early week. It was funny because we kind of, I don't know if we spoke this into reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if all of our talk about testing last week with Scott Palmer and Vic Alvarez, like, just manifested, but somehow, some way, that's exactly what we ended up with at the U.S. Street Nationals. Part of the Winter Series has been that testing opportunity. We know that that is something that is a tremendous value to all of our teams, but I think I can speak for all of us and say that we're pretty torn about it. Right. We're pretty torn about all of this. But it really was interesting to kind of get that forced test, you know what I mean? To see how it would go without testing. Most of our teams are used to coming in on Monday or setting up, honestly, on Sunday or week before the race and spending Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, making runs, kind of shaking, out the cobwebs or sorting out a new car. This time, however, the first time any of these cars hit the track was for the first round of qualifying on Thursday, and boy, did it throw a wrench in gears. I mean, what was your kind of initial reaction to it, Mike? I know that we were kind of as sad as we were also kind of excited to see how it played out.
Yeah, we were actually talking about this. I was talking about it with Brian on the Flow broadcast. He asked me pretty much the same question, and I am, all for it. We talked about how back in the day, there was no testing. You might test one time in the off season and then you go race. You definitely weren't allowed to test at the same track you're going to be racing at. But I don't think that would have changed much of anything. I don't think we would have saw Mark Mickey go any quicker. I don't think the guys that ran up front would have run any better. I think it's the guys that were on the back half, like probably the back half of our 32 car field and even maybe 32 to 48. It would have shuffled that around. And I think we'd have just been closer to our 500 spread of 1 to 32 that we've had for basically 2 years in a row now at all of our events. The spread was actually 900s for this event. So it just created a wider gap of 1 to 32 instead of just allowing these guys to chip away at it so much to where by the time they come up for that final qualifier that everything is so compact. But we also only got 3 qualifiers. So the original game plan is 3 days of testing and 5 qualifiers. And I just think the field could have looked dramatically different, especially in the back half of the field. But that and perhaps the 3 qualifiers is maybe even the bigger story than the lack of testing.
I would say you're right. I mean, it did. It had a significant impact on it. I was surprised. The thing I was most proud about is how all of our racers and teams leaned into it. I didn't have any single team come up to me bemoaning losing testing. You know what I mean? I had guys coming up to me and being like, "Oh, this is gonna be interesting."
You had guys like saying, "Man, I sure would have liked to had testing. I could have used a couple more hits," but there was nobody that was like, upside down about it or saying that we should alter the schedule to allow testing. And some guys did get Monday testing. And I think that maybe we'll see guys busting down the doors at World Series, because a lot of times you'll see guys, I'm going to roll in Tuesday and I'm going to test Tuesday, or I'm going to roll in, I'm just going to test Wednesday. But the only guys that got to test were the ones that were beating down the gates Sunday night to get in and be there Monday. So I think that's going to accelerate everybody's schedule for World Series if the forecast doesn't look absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. And I mean, honestly, I'm kind of here for it. I feel like we learned a lot from this experience. And it was funny because it wasn't just Mother Nature. I knew we were due. We have had something of Chamber of Commerce weather the
but
last several
it was
events.
Definitely challenging, but you said this was the most challenging event we've done, and I don't think that that's true. I think that 2019 in Denver was the most challenging.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that,
but for different reasons.
But I will take this challenge and this group that we've got now that we've built that are gonna. I feel like this group of racers, obviously our track partner Vic Alvarez and his team, will, I don't want to say follow us through the gates of hell, but that's kind of what I'm going for. Like whatever we, figure out as far as schedule or testing, events, payouts, or whatever. I feel like we've got a group of guys that are committed to this deal, and that feels really good. And I'd like to have, battle some weather here and there if we have to, but know that these racers are locked in on this deal.
100%. And you're right, because it was a totally different challenge back in 2019 when you had participation issues, and we hadn't quite convinced the masses of what we were trying to do. And now that I feel like we've kind of bridged that gap or crossed that bridge, if you will, I'd much rather fight Mother Nature than, be staring down the barrel of begging people to come. And we're, at a point we had 69 pro mods on the property. We would have been a touch over 70 had we had a couple of guys that had trailer issues. I think we lost 3 cars to trailer axles, which is kind of incredible.
Check those axles.
Those axles,
Kenny Laughlin.
Talk to Kenny Laughlin. Our boy Kenny Laughlin is preparing to launch a brand new trailer axle program. But anyways, that we ran into that, and it was funny because then when the clouds parted and we had some sunshine, we have things flying into power lines. At first, we had a racer's pop-up awning that had not quite yet been anchored to the ground take off and land in a power line, and it cost us electricity. I was up on the starting line talking to the DJ. Shout out to DJ John. DJ John was up there. We were kind of picking out some tunes to get the mood right, and we hear this
no classic rock,
and we lose, no classic rock, and we the total silence, and it was just like an almost eerie thing. And he's like, I don't know what happened. We might have had something fail, and I'm like, I don't know, dude. There's no power anywhere. And the next thing we know, my phone's ringing. Vic's like, somebody's tent hit the power line. We don't have power.
We got the picture from Vic, and it's like an orange.
You can't make this shit up, man.
Just literally hanging in the power lines.
When it happened to get on Sunday morning, like the music stopped, and everything was just kind of, everybody was just kind of coming through the gates, and racers are mingling around. There's a few cars coming through the staging lanes, and all of a sudden the music stops. And I'm like, oh shit.
And that was the result of a truck and trailer clipping a transformer or a power line down on the top end where power enters the facility. And
but they got
I got to give, I don't know the name of the company,
quick.
But we got to give it up to the local electric company, because when you're talking about a Sunday morning, my heart sank because it's going to be extremely difficult to get someone out here on a Sunday morning. But then as I was talking to Mike Washington, dude, they were ready to be there.
Out there must be drag racers.
Well, they were probably getting paid triple time.
There was vultures.
You know what I mean? So they were like coming out.
There was vultures circling around as I was standing there in the staging lanes. And I was like, this isn't good.
No, it was. But anyways, we managed to get through all of that. And Sunday, that opening round of eliminations was just what you dream of. Virtually every car made it down the track. Tons of side-by-side races. Races won and lost by thousandths of a second.
Ran quicker than they ran in qualifying in that session. The air was 321 feet below. Remember, we pulled it up because we come up there. We weren't even really paying attention to the air. We're just hoping for a good race and guys to make it down the track. And they are hauling ass. And I was standing beside you, Wes, and I'm like, what is the air? We pulled it up, and it was
321 feet below sea level.
And the barometer was high. Water grains were dialed in. So everybody was taking.
I got to tell you, man, across the board, I mean, I feel like it's important to give it up to a handful of these guys. I mean, I guess if you start to look at eliminations, the people that really showed up and showed out, I mean, I got to give a lot of credit and respect to Ryan Hayward, that whole team.
Ryan with an
brand new Pro Mod car from Rick Jones. Ricky Jones Jr. was on the property calling the shots on the car alongside Brandon Stroud from Proline. They had never made a run in that car prior to Q1, and it goes right down Broadway, 367 off the trailer. And I just to even go Ricky's up there trying to make a full run. Yeah,
it was Ricky's first time tuning at the track in, I think, over a year. It might have even been longer. I was talking to him at the airport, and he was having a great time. His first time at one of our events, and I think he really enjoyed himself.
I was massively impressed by that. And then to make a run to the semifinals was extremely impressive. And that's, you know, I don't want to depart from talking about top performers, but the thing that I noticed throughout the course of the weekend that seemed to really flare up this weekend, more so than we've seen in the past, guys double bulbing people on accident, guys getting up on the two-step early, guys, you know, messing up their staging routine. And to me, it's almost, as much as I hate it for the teams, we had several red light losses in the first round, actually throughout eliminations, which isn't something we have seen in the past. But I think it's this weird combination of the driving expectations ramped way up following Kai Kelly's performance at the Snowbirds. So I think everybody went into this event knowing they were going to have to kill it on the Christmas tree, not to mention that the energy, the tension is so thick that it's unlike anything most of these folks have experienced before. And they roll around for the first round and it feels like the final round anywhere else they've ever been. I had multiple racers tell me that, you know, when they let off the button, they thought they were going to piss their pants or their heart was beating through their chest. And as much as I want them to be comfortable, I actually love that they're uncomfortable. And I love that we've created an atmosphere that generates that type of reaction from our competitors. But going back to our kind of surprise and really impressive performers, we got to give it up again for Craig Sullivan. He really surprised us all breaking into that first field, the quickest Pro Mod field in history at the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals, continued that qualifying streak this past weekend at the U.S. streets. I was really impressed with one of our few guys that are still sticking it out with a nostalgia bodied car. And I just appreciate the holy hell out of it. Another one, Matty Deach, you know, our superstar in the making, representing for the nitrous cars, as well as Matt Handress, or Andrew Handress. I was massively impressed with those two nitrous cars breaking into the field. Amber Denton, Tommy and Judy Franklin's daughter, she really drove smart. I can't tell you how many calls I've had in the last 72 hours or so, people bragging on Amber. Like, of course, we all wanted to see her qualify. We all wanted to see her get in the show. But the fact that she came in there and didn't drive way over her head or make any sort of bonehead moves, it was really, really impressive. I think as she gets more and more comfortable with that thing, she will be a contender, be there, no doubt. Scott Palmer, 375, high 190s, obviously not where he wants to be, but you can tell that he is a frog's hair away from in the mix, and I'm excited to see that progression continue at the World Series of Pro Mod. Scott Taylor, one of our stars of No Prep Kings and Street Outlaws, broke into his first DI Winter Series field, ran really well. I think they went a 63. Yeah, 63 with a 6, I believe. Massively impressive performance. Second time out racing with that car. I just thought that was really, really impressive. Bob Glenn, what can you say about our lone roots blower combination? He's a burnout doing son of a gun, and he's a showman through and through, a great guy, a local guy. I love seeing him be a part of them in the mix here. Great weekend for the Decker family. Mike Decker Jr., Mike Decker III really, really ran well, made a run into the deep elimination rounds. And then you kind of go up to the top of the list. Mark Mickey doing Mark Mickey things, qualifying number one. I heard through the grapevine that was like his 12th number one qualifier in a row. Ken Quartuccio, who we'll be talking to in just a few short minutes. Jason Scruggs run in the beginning of qualifying. It was literally one of the most picturesque, beautiful passes that I've ever, if there was a pass that demonstrated what Pro Mod is, that was it. The thing's got the front end hanging in the air, burying the wheelie bars at half track, runs a 357 with a 9, just absolutely incredible. And it's great to see Jason Scruggs back in the mix like that. Erica Enders, really another one that I thought showed up and showed out in a big way. a lot of our usual suspects, Travis Harvey, Kurt Stedding, never a surprise to see them performing well. Who else do we got that really? Melanie Salemi. I really feel Melanie Salemi made some significant progress. They were prepared to test both a roots combo and a screw blower combo, stuck with the screw blower, and were right in the thick of things. I think they ended up qualifying like 13th overall, which with this caliber of cars, being even in the top 32, honestly, probably in the field is an accomplishment at this point, or on the sheet at all. Jim Whiteley, another guy, a big fan of ours, a big supporter of ours for a long, long time, going back to the very first World Series of Pro Mod in 2017, broke into the field, bumped in the final session with a 364 with a 9. I don't know how far that is from a personal best from Jim, but it was great to see him in the field on race day. What else do we got here? I was just trying to think. Sydney Frigo. I love to see the impact and invasion of our international racers. We had Brazil really well represented, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Isaiah Rojas, Raymond Matos, excuse me. Oh, and how about Antron Brown? Brown performed so well. It was huge for the series, huge for Door Slammer drag racing. Like, such an incredible thing to see him in the mix. Like, I was literally during the chip draw Saturday night, I'm going, like, this is a dream realized for this old boy. You know what I mean? Like, this is exactly what we were going for, is bringing all these stars from different walks of the drag racing life together to compete against one another on a level playing field. I couldn't have ever imagined this in my wildest dreams, and here it is happening.
There were a lot of guys like Antron that made a big leap from Snowbirds to US Street. Zach Sackman. I always say Matt. Zach Sackman made a big leap. Lyle did. Lyle made a huge leap from how they performed at Snowbirds to US Street. So that was cool to see too. Just a lot of guys. I was talking about this with Brian also, like how many guys on the list didn't qualify for either event. And it's actually not a very extensive list. I think between the two events, the vast majority of guys that came and raced both events qualified at one or the other. So it was really cool to see, man.
No, it was.
Victor's in the comments here waiting for his invite, guys.
Moment. Oh, Vic Alvarez looking for an invite to the World Series. I tell you what, we've had somebody. Yeah, Vic, I hope you better start shooting some texts, maybe sending some gifts, and we'll see what we can do, brother. No, it's man, I got to give a quick shout out to Vic Alvarez, Josh Dowda, Wade Rich, Aqua Bob, Petey, Gavin Carter, Mike Washington, like everybody that's
Gary.
Randy Lee, Jamie Luke, Gary, Randy, the whole crew at Bradenton Motorsports Park. It's such a pleasure. And it's so crazy that we get to do what we love alongside people that are as passionate and fired up about this stuff as we are. And, you know, seeing Wade Rich, few people know that when a racetrack takes a beating like that in water, rain constantly, low temperature, it makes things extremely challenging for those tasked with prepping the racetrack. And to see him, you know, stay at the track, you know, Thursday night till midnight, 1 a.m., waiting for it to stop raining, which it never did, comes back first thing Friday morning, 5 a.m., starts doing his absolute best to build a base and to provide a safe, fast racing surface for our competitors across a wide variety of cars. I mean, we've got the baddest big tire cars on the planet, but we've also got many of the baddest small tire radial cars on the planet, which are two completely different animals. And to see, I think that was the best I have personally ever seen any track prep guru do, with providing a world-class surface for both categories, for both types of cars.
Back and forth.
That's the hard part, days. Back and forth.
Yeah, and like you said, man, when a lot of us that have worked long hours out there are gone and trying to get a few hours of sleep, those guys are still out there, especially Wade. Like, I don't know when, maybe he sleeps during while the rest of us are, while the eliminations are actually happening, because other than that, he's on that track. So it's extensive, man. There's just so much man-hour labor that goes into setting up, running the event, tearing it down. It's crazy. And we really do for you know, our group that really are kind of just figuring this deal out and sort of new to the scene, putting on these events and experiencing like Vic's team. It's been a nice like mesh, and I feel like we're really hitting our groove. Like, we went into US Street and like it feels like we're in the groove, in a process now, and we're getting better at it. So I feel like the best is still yet to come. And I did want to
agree.
say one too. You're talking about surprise deal, and I talked about this a lot when it was happening on Saturday, also. But the Shelton team, for really, it seems like, I don't know, the second, at least maybe the third event in a row, Stan Shelton just has like bad luck, things happening, not making the show, or not having weird things happen in the first round of eliminations. That was a huge surprise to me. But yeah, he was on the bump for a long time and got bumped out. Like the last guy that could bump him out in the order came in and did it. I think that was Matty D. And so it's just like, for a caliber of a team that is, to keep having these things happen, they could come out swinging at World Series, and I would love to see that, because they've earned it at this point.
Be there, no doubt. And there's also a couple more, like Alex Laughlin. Man, he bumped in there in Q3, and I was like, this is so great for Alex Laughlin.
We were all so happy. It lasted like one pair.
It lasted one pair, man. But they made a fantastic run, 365 with an 8. I think they will be in the mix moving forward. It's so competitive that you can't really – it's hard to nail down who's actually going to make the show come Saturday night. But it was really great to see them make that progress. Scott Quisenberry. Scott Quiz, I was really glad to see 41 Willies out there, and it ran a 364 and change, and they are a couple of runs away. Mike Bowman making the switch from Pro Charger to a twin turbo combo. I think the same situation with him. He was just a couple of runs away, brand new setup and kind of working things out, right? And I think that they were a couple of runs from being in the top of the pack. Billy Banaka, Robert Davis, the Bad Bunny himself, Camilo Velez. I was really impressed with those guys. That's a car that's been around the sport for a long time, and it's just as good of a hot rod, I think, as it ever was. Went 367 with a 0. So there's a whole lot of people that are really close. We're getting a question here from DRC Garage. Wes, in the future, can we get a B class for the Pro Mods that don't make the field? We're working on that. We always run a second chance race at the World Series of Pro Mod. It's part of the deal. When we run out of time. One of my biggest takeaways from the weekend is just
Street, man. That was
US Street.
We
had 12 eliminators at US Streets, and it makes it very difficult to weave any additional racing into the deal. And it's also a real split. You'd be surprised how many of our competitors are so competitive that they really have no desire to compete in a second chance race. And I'm always surprised by that a little bit, but it's also just the caliber of players that are at the table right now. So we will address that over the off season, which is everybody else's regular season, and kind of get a game plan going into the 2025-26 season. I definitely, me personally, as a lifelong racer, I know what it's like to be on the outside looking in, or have a bunch of guests and sponsors and friends make a long trip to see your race, and then you're not in the show, and your stuff's up on Projects when everybody else is in the staging lanes. And I don't really want any of my competitors. I see these people as like something of my children, and I don't want any of them to experience that. But I also don't want to minimize the accomplishment or detract at all from the accomplishment that is qualifying for this field. So we've got some figuring out to do. I mean, that's something that we're really proud of, as being nimble. I saw a comment a moment ago about, we also have to say Sean Murdernova Ellington did a fantastic job behind the wheel of the Keith Haney 69 Camaro twin turbo Pro Mod out of the Mark Mickey Pro Line stable, M&M Trans stable. I was really impressed to see, and I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with come World Series of Pro Mod. But there was a comment a moment ago just talking about the rules, and that was something that we're really proud of. We've got a fantastic tech team led by John Sears, Vinny, Jim, everybody down there, Jenny, that hangs out in the tech shack all weekend. Huge props to Vic Alvarez for building us a Taj Mahal of tech buildings. People are able to roll inside and weigh their cars.
Going down there. We were making stops down there just to stand by the heater.
Mike was all over that heater.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. That's such a nice building, and it really adds something to it, in my opinion, just the experience of rolling in there. And I think I'm going to level it up a little bit more for World Series of Pro Mod. But nonetheless, I just thought it was an incredible job. We had some we had some question marks headed into this second race. We had a new power adder being introduced in the Hartz centrifugal supercharger. There were a couple of things that we were figuring out, but everything went splendidly. We had a really competitive field of cars of every different type, which is exactly what we want. And we want everybody that qualifies to feel like they've got a shot at winning. We're going to tighten things up a little bit further going into the World Series of Pro Mod. We made some announcements, an announcement earlier this week, yesterday actually, with the slight changes that we made for the World Series of Pro Mod. But I'm feeling really good about where we're at right now, and I think it's going to be anybody's drag race come World Series of Pro Mod.
Hey man, we got Ken in the we got the winner in the green room here. Why don't we bring him on?
Yeah, man, let's do it. And I did see the Liam Hubbard is asking about the U.S. Street Nationals. It's been named the U.S. Street Nationals for like decades, and we didn't want to come in and rebrand the event initially. That is something we are contemplating in the future. So that's kind of the scoop on that. What's the point structures for World Series of Pro Mod? Chad's asking. It is 1.5 points. So basically, Ken is very well positioned to be the first ever Drag Illustrated Winter Series champion. But it's not a foregone conclusion, that's for sure, especially with the caliber of cars and drivers that we have on the property.
They asked me about that this weekend, and I don't think anybody was really paying much attention to it, but they are now. Now that we're going into the third one, and there's a lot of questions. 1.5 points, how does it work? What do you get points for? So I think initially it was just still the mentality of individual events, and then now that we're coming up on the World Series of Pro Mod, everyone's focused on that championship.
We should run through the points here in a minute, but before we do that, let me take a quick second before we bring on Ken Quartuccio Jr., winner of the U.S. Street Nationals and a runner-up at the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals. And
BMP.
The owner of BMP essentially at this point. But I do want to take a quick second, guys, and remind you that each and every episode of the West Buck Show is made possible by way of our brand new sponsor, ART Applied Racing Technology. Based in Clearwater, Florida, ART has spent more than 2 decades earning a reputation as one of drag racing's top names for quality parts and award-winning service. These guys live and breathe drag racing, whether it's Pro Mod, Pro Stock, or the all-important grassroots and sportsman categories. Plus, ART is committed to giving back. They've sponsored some of the biggest races in the country and even worked with world championship drivers. So if you're on the hunt for top-tier components and expert guidance for your race program, you've got to check out Applied Race Technology. Show them some love for supporting the sport of drag racing and supporting us here at Drag Illustrated. Log on to appliedracingtechnology.com today and support the ones who support us, guys. Without any further ado, let's bring the man of the hour on here, Ken Quartuccio Jr. What's up,
There
buddy?
he is.
Familiar office chair. We got Mickey Mouse in the background. Did you guys go to Disney World Sunday or Monday?
No,
No, he should have.
It's that
probably should've.
deal.
Maybe we
You
should
just won
make
the
that.
U.S. Street Nationals. Where are you going next? I'm going to
I
Disney
know, I should have
World.
said that.
Oh, man. What a moment, Ken. I kind of want to just throw it to you a little bit, and I'll lead you here. But after that final round appearance at the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals, I mean, all eyes have been on you in that Scott Tidwell Motorsports program. You've clearly got this combination dialed in. But we talked a few short weeks ago right here on this very program about how you were still kind of getting comfortable in the car. I'm not so sure that you wanted to go 001 there in the final round, but how much do your reaction times and your performance throughout the weekend kind of coincide with getting more comfortable inside of that screw-blown 69 Camaro?
Well, after Snowbirds and the fact I come home and I watched the in-car camera, I found every bit of footage I could find because I really beat myself up bad thinking that maybe I could have made the trip. And I said it before, and I lifted at the 330, just past the 330, and I knew I was ahead of him at the time, and I really beat myself up over that. So as we talk, Scott, Petty, CT, all these guys, Dennis and all them, I said, you guys, I got to get comfortabler in the car, and I got to really try to get ahead of it. And that's what I did for the last couple of weeks. I really tried to get myself in a good spot. And as eliminations were going on, as soon as we unloaded, it went to 57. And I think I was like 20 on the tree against Kyle in Q1. I felt pretty good. And as eliminations went on, I think I got a little too comfortable as we were going on. And I was just really in a good spot mentally. I said this to a couple people. I mean, honestly, the win really 100% should go to Steve Petty at this point, because right before we rolled up there, he put 3,000 in the box, and I didn't want to argue with him because I'm afraid of him. So my plan was to go up there and just take the 3,000 out of it, because the 7 I thought was a little bit of a fluke, because I'm not that good. I'm usually, a 20 guy. The 7 I felt was because I had started the car up and was pulling into the water. My team shut me down because there was something on the track. I think Hayward still did his burnout. Then I rushed to get up there. So I was rushed a little bit, and I thought maybe that's why I went 7. So when Steve said, "Oh, let's put 3 in it," I'm like, 3 against Lyle. I don't know if I want to do that. So I'm like, "Yes, sir." As soon as I'd get up there, I would just take it all out, not tell anybody. And we get up there, and then just people started talking to me. And I'm like, I never got to take the 3 out. And thank God I didn't, because obviously it would have turned out differently. But yeah, I was telling my wife earlier today, I think driving that car, I'm more comfortable in that car than any of the cars I've drove before now. And with the screw, I feel pretty good. And I forced myself. I said to them before we got there, I said, I want to be in the right lane all day if I can. But then I started to think about it, and I'm like, well, you know what? Just put me where you think is best. Because we had lane choice the whole day. So I was like, they wanted the left lane. I forced myself to just get used to it.
Well, I think I was curious, because that was literally my follow-up question, was just about your visibility issues. Because, for those that don't know, perhaps, and a lot of our, we've got a lot of hardcore fans that have been tuning into this show for years and years and years, but there are some people that are relatively new to this scene. Something we're proud of is bringing new fans to the sport. Visibility becomes a real issue when you've got a giant supercharger sticking through the hood and this massive injector hat. So I was curious if that was kind of part of the strategy to be in the right lane, but then, it was kind of like the favored lane was the left lane. So we saw a lot of guys going over there, but you also probably don't want that to be like someone to throw you in the left lane and it's going to throw you off your game. Right.
Right. So historically, it's, and I hate to get into the politics of it, but a lot of talk on social media about the lanes and the track and this one groove. I can tell you, I went to this race like in '92, the first year for snowbirds. And it's always been like that. There's always a point during the day that the track bottoms out. It's usually that 1-2 o'clock where the track just bottoms out, and you really got to tiptoe down that track. It's always been like that. That's why you don't hear the older guys like Struggs and Tuttaros and all these guys that have been racing here for decades. None of us say anything because we've seen this. It's always been this way. It's a treacherous track at that heat of the day. It's always rewarding in the morning and it's always rewarding at night. But, I didn't mind either lane. And in the right lane, I was using the center line as my guide of where I was on track. This week in the left lane, I just started using the wall as my guide, because I can't see anything over there. And these cars, they don't have, they all have tubs for seats. So you're sitting in basically on the floor. And I got books and, dictionaries that I'm sitting on to prop me up, but it don't help.
No, man. And it is interesting. And I honestly have told our team, we have to embrace that's part of the story of these events are challenging track conditions. Yep. And like our goal is always to provide a safe, fast racetrack. And I'm very proud of the job that is done in that regard, but that's also part of drag racing. Like that is a big part of how these things work out. I mean, the same way with Lyle Barnett had a couple of red lights en route to his final round appearance, right? Sometimes luck goes your way or the tracks. Those are just part of our sport that I don't think we should be afraid of. Like if you talk about golf, look at the football games, right? What was the game the other night that was a treacherous NFL game with snow on the ground and bitter cold? I mean, sometimes that type of thing happens. And I think you just got to lean into it and trudge forward. And like you said, the great tuners and the great drivers are going to find a way to get it done regardless.
That's crazy. I thought we scripted it. I thought we scripted it so that we had Kai in the left lane and he lost. I thought that's what I read online.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I felt all day that the left lane was worse personally, but obviously Petty and Chris Terry and CT, they see something that I don't see. And, I've learned not to question anything.
Well, it comes down to experience, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to touch on that. And I don't think anybody's got more experience at that track and has had more success than you. And we talked about it. I actually think I got this from your daughter via Courtney Enders. Just the list of accomplishments you've had at this race. I'll run through them real quick. Or at this track: Snowbirds 2021 runner-up, U.S. Street Nationals 2022. Too cold. That event was canceled. Snowbirds 2022 second round, U.S. Street Nationals 2023 winner. Snowbirds 2023 first round, U.S. Street Nationals 2024 runner-up. Snowbirds 2024 runner-up. And you even said before the race happened that usually when you runner-up at Snowbirds, you win at U.S. Street. And I think that was a cool quote at the time, but little did we know that's actually how it was going to play out. And just speak to what, I mean, beyond just general experience, just racing other events or other tracks, what is it about this facility and these preseason all-star showdowns or whatever you want to call them, even before we got involved or brought the World Series there, that makes that, or that you've been so successful there? And I even saw, I think your wife or you shared a photo from, I mean, it looked like, I don't know, the 90s or something. It probably wasn't that long ago. You had your nitrous Camaro in the winner's circle at BMP. I mean, a lot of it goes back even further than these dates I've got here. Just what is it? I mean, have you figured it out, or you know, what is it that seems to bring out the best in you?
Yeah, something about that place. We just, you know, in the past, you know, because of the way work was, like say 2015 and up, we would work all summer and then we just go race they would have, it was called Outlaw Drag Racing Championship then, but it was a smaller race at Bradenton, say in October. Then we would do the World Street Finals at Orlando, Snowbirds, US Street, and then we would just kind of take the rest of the year off. And like, I think from 2015 to 2020, we won every US Street in 632. I think we won 3 or 4 Snowbirds during that period. We won 2 or 3 NMCA races down there during that period because we do the NMCA races there. And yeah, so it's just something about it. I always, you know, up here, it's miserable in Connecticut right now. It's cold. And that was like my thing to do, is to go down there and just get some sun. And something about that track, I don't know what it is. I couldn't even tell you. You know, it's just something about it. I just love it. And every time I go there, I look forward to it. And, you know, even with different teams and different cars. And like I said, I think we won 5 or 6 in a row with 632. We won 2 or 3 in a row with Pro 275, some NMCA, and then lately, you know, just the Pro Mod stuff. It's just always been good to us. So you like things that are good to you, and that's why you like going back there. And you know, Victor's always treated us great, and Alan before him, you know, he always treated us great. And when Wade was at Orlando, he treated us really good. So you just look forward to people that you're around that, you know, really are nice to you.
The place is no doubt special. I mean, there's a lot of incredible drag strips in the country and around the world for that matter, but there is something kind of special about going to Florida in the winter and being down there in like just a happy-go-lucky part of the country. A lot of vacationers and snowbirds. It's definitely a special environment. One of the questions I was kind of getting a lot on Sunday night, Ken, when we were all partying in the winter circle, hosing you down with champagne and whatnot, was, are these drivers like locked in on the points championship? And I'm just curious, like, are you like, is that a motivator for you? Like, our goal with that was to create some synergy amongst these 3 races and get people to follow the story, have a narrative to tell to our fans, and get people further invested in this. But leading the points by a considerable margin, I think 300 some odd points. I can't remember off the top of my head, but looking really good headed into the final race of the series. Of course, the Drag Illustrated World Series of Pro Mod with $150,000 on the line. I mean, how much is that? I mean, is that something you're excited about? Is it just a secondary notion, or what's your take?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've had 2 or 3 other racers that are in the top 5 or so text me in the last day or 2 talking about it, you know, strategy. I think we're in a good spot, but I don't think our spot means anything right now because of the chip draw. If you said to me with points, if there was points and a half, which I'm not a big fan of, but I get it. The chip draw is going to be the wild card, because if I knew that I could qualify in the top 5 or 6, which I think we can easily do that with our performance. Well, if you had a traditional ladder, if I go 2 rounds, I pretty much win the championship. But what happens when I draw Mark Mickey first round, or Travis Harvey, or any of those guys? My whole championship could get thrown in the garbage. So I'm going to remind you guys all that if I don't win the championship.
Right. We're going to hear about this. I can see that.
That's exactly what we expect, Ken. Don't you worry. No, and I'm glad to hear that, because I had some fans and some people hanging out down around the winter circle. We were having a hell of a good time down there. And you had an army of crew and friends and family down there. And I did have fans asking me like about the points implications. And many of them were excited that it was still kind of up in the air going into the final race, which was the goal, of course. And it's much like the NHRA countdown to the championship. Like, I can certainly make a case against it, but I can also make a case for it. Yeah. And if our goal is to keep things interesting and to keep people engaged to the bitter end, this is a step toward that goal. And I tell you what, man, it's when people see this championship ring that we've put together and $25,000, I mean, everything that comes along with it, plus the historic significance of being the first ever champion.
I think that's the big deal. I think that's the big deal too, is the inaugural DI Winter Series champion. Everybody wants to say that, but these 3 events with the payouts we've got and how prestigious each one is, I think that they stand on their own, to where winning each one individually is obviously a huge accomplishment. And the championship was kind of designed, I think, initially to be like a bonus or icing on top. But now I've got more questions, obviously, about the rules. That's how I spend most of my day, on the phone about the rules. But then if I'm not, then now it's turned to the point structure. And no one said anything about the point structure until after your win on Sunday. Now everyone is focused on it, which is cool. And we're always open to, kind of throwing stuff out there, seeing what works, what doesn't. And we're never afraid to adapt and change if we need to. But I think it's going to be
adapt and change. I got a text earlier in the week, first thing Monday morning, Ken, like 8 a.m. I get a text from Kai Kelly. And Kai goes, Wes, any chance we can do call outs at World Series of Pro Mod? And I go, why? And he goes, because I will 1,000% call out Ken Quartuccio in E1. And I said, nah, I'm not going to introduce anything like that going into the final race, you know. But it sounds good in theory.
That's one step too far.
It's one step too far. And it's also like, I feel like I saw this with the NHRA All-Star call out, is that you're also kind of forcing this pro wrestling thing on people that aren't pro wrestlers. You know what I mean? And it's tough. Like the Street Outlaws guys, they're kind of used to that type of thing, and they've been down that road before. But I can't imagine, putting Jason Scruggs or some of these guys that are pretty soft-spoken and not going to, make a big – I can't imagine putting them in a situation where they feel like they have to call someone out. I think the chance of figuring – that's a magical moment. I honestly think, what do you make of the chip draw? Like, I know as a racer, you could go, oh, I hate this.
He just said what he thinks about it.
But you have to admit that those moments are special.
So I'm going to touch on a couple things real quick. One, the rule changes you guys did this week were the most sensible and smart things that you did, which you don't usually see. And I think the world of John Sears, and I hope he was involved in that, because that was what you did by helping the Pro Chargers, but by not hurting all of us. Because I've raced a series before that I was leading the points. I was tied with somebody, and they changed the rules going into the last race a couple days before it. But they put weight on me and another combination, and the third car won the championship. So you helping the Pro Chargers only was the best thing you could do. You didn't put weight on us. You didn't put weight on Turbo so that we have to go back to work. You just helped the Pro Chargers. That was smart, because now they can go from there. They have tune-ups. They can do that easy. So going to that last race, it's going to be smooth for everybody, but the Pro Chargers are going to be more competitive. So I commend you on that.
Thank you. We really, Mike and John were both adamant, and Vic as well. There's a group of us that work on the rules, and I really try to stay out of it as best as I can, because I get so much feedback about it that I really try to trust Mike, Vic, John to make those decisions. but it was really our primary goal was to tighten, to help the Pro Charger combination out a little bit, but also do it immediately, not do it a week before the race. Like, we tasked ourselves with having that decision made by Wednesday, by today, and we did, and I'm really proud of it. And we will, that's something that I think is important in this like kind of day and age, is being willing to make those changes and make them quick and live with the consequences. So anyways, I appreciate
but
the
you
kudos,
didn't hurt
man.
the other combinations. That's what we were all afraid of, and then it would have been hard for you, because if you would have put weight on my combination, you would have had to put it on Scruggs' combination, and then you would have had to put it on Mark's combination, right?
Yeah.
So by taking weight off the
but,
Pro Charger.
Yeah, and we did make some of those adjustments before US Street, between
Yes.
Snowbird and US Street.
Yes.
Turbo's got some weight.
Yeah,
Your combination got a little bit of weight. But
Yep.
it's all about just bouncing out. I mean, we're not trying to make an index class to keep everybody so tight, but we do want every combination to come in there feeling like they've got a chance to be competitive and to win. And we just saw, I mean, at the start of the deal, we actually had a lot of weight on Pro Charger.
Yeah.
Pro Chargers really hauled ass at the end of the year in PDRA competition, and we're kind of leading that Pro Boost field. So we were just looking at that and sort of based our weight off of that. Well, it just hasn't played out that way. In our series, and so we just basically took them back to where they were last year. They're at the same weight they ran with us last year, so hopefully it helps even things out.
Yeah, no, I think it will. So I think you guys did great there, and like I said, 1.5 points. I get it. I hate it. I get it. The chip draw, I absolutely hate, but.
So this is the guy that's dominating our series, and he hates everything that we're doing.
I hate everything about it. But I can tell you, as somebody who's raced his whole life, first round, part of second round is pretty lame at most races, right? Because your one runs 32 and two runs 31. You made it so that first round is as exciting as the final rounds, like Kai and Stevie. And there was a lot of great races. So the chip draw is 100% worth having. So I wouldn't change a thing with that, because now the points is exciting. And I think if you guys go to that last race, and if I lose or Kai loses or Mark, you gotta run that story on every round and every eliminator of as guys are getting knocked out. Like, really push that story, because a lot of us now, we're all paying attention to it.
Right.
100%, man. And you're right. I mean, we're seeing the comments here, like, how about that, Stevie Fast Jackson and Lyle and Kai Kelly drawing each other in E1. It's like, those are moments that you could hardly script, you know what I mean? Like, I know that was like the inside joke of the weekend or whatever, and I've been hearing a lot about it, but it was amazing to see that actually play out. And that's what I feel like we're here to do, is that in so many brands of drag racing, there's all these races that the fans wish they could see, but they just don't happen because, maybe it's a guy that's typically, in that bottom 16 or the bottom 8 or whatever. And you just never see their paths cross with that dude you really wanted to see him race. And I think that this is the magic of this, is giving the fans the matchups that they want to see, and introducing that element of luck or chance into the chip draw. And I also love getting all you guys hustled back up to the tent. Shout out to Strange Engineering, sponsoring our VIP tent for all these events, but bringing everybody up there and having that moment where everybody's looking at each other eye to eye. And because a lot of, as well as I do,
like
these guys don't even know each other sometimes.
For a lot of people, I got a lot of comments that chip draw is the highlight of the event. And we've played with different ways of how to do it. And we actually just kind of came up with that on the fly for Snowbirds. Everybody up to the tent, let's film it, let's put it on flow. And that really turned into a whole thing now, to where it's like, man, when are we doing the chip draw? You can't wait for that drama to unfold. And I was doing the recording of the chip draw as it was happening. And when I saw that matchup happen with Kai and Stevie, I was like the first one to know that that's what's happening. And I'm like trying to not show my hand or have any kind of facial expression or say anything. And I just couldn't wait to see everyone's reaction when they found out.
He didn't even tell me. He had his notebook up to his chest and he goes, we got some good ones.
The best part about it was watching Stevie and Kai trying to out muscle each other. Like, oh, I can't wait. I'm going to kick your ass. No, you're going to kick mine. And then we all knew they were dying inside. Like they were going to throw up. I could see it in Stevie's face and Kai's face. They had to do what they had to do to each other there, but they hated that. They absolutely, because think about it. One of them, their weekend's over after first round. And those are two of the biggest stars in our sport right now. And that was epic. And that's the only reason I'm okay with the chip draw. I will not tolerate call outs because people like me and Struggs and Mickey, we ain't calling anybody out. So
right. No, it's the chip draw ain't going anywhere, man. We actually got some cool stuff coming for the next chip draw that's going to kind of just add some coolness to it. So I'm genuinely excited, man.
Well,
but it's
along those same lines, just talking about your personality or Scruggs' personality, these guys, your nickname is Serial Killer. Okay. So what, and I don't think we use that enough or hear that enough. I actually saw a video of some guy in the stands when you hit a 007 in the semi. I was like, serial killers on the loose. I don't know if you saw this video. Yeah. And then it reminded me, where did that come from? And I mean, are we going to see more of that serial killer mentality?
No, that ain't me. So we came out, we built a Corvette like in 18. Skinny Kid built me a red Corvette, and we were going to run 10.5 on it. And when we built the car, we built it and 10.5 tires wouldn't fit. So we put 315 radials on it. And we showed up for the first 3 races for back then it was like Atomizer 10.5 series. They had a national championship, whatever. We showed up for the first 3 races and won every race. So one day, my phone started going crazy. Donald Long is doing a live video of himself, right? Like he does.
Yeah.
And he's all somber, like somebody died. So he's like talking quiet and all muffled up. And he's like, so 10.5 slicks and all this stuff. He goes, you MFers let a serial killer into your playground. And he just went with it like crazy for like the whole season. And
I remember that actually.
You remember that? Like it was just, it was crazy. So I never used that. I don't know why they still say that because I'm not. But
I like it.
He just went so overboard. And we actually made up stickers of like Tony the Tiger, and we spent serial killer with a C instead. And we just said that's the serial killer.
That's the
When I hear it, I think more killer. Like silent killer. You know, like that's you. Like the sniper, silent killer.
But that's all Donald Long.
I'm telling you what, man, buzzsaw might stick. If I had a $1 for every time this past weekend I heard someone say, man, Quartuccio, he's like a buzzsaw through this deal. And I'm like, that could stick. I kind of like that. That could stick, man. Because serial killer is a little bit hard to, like, I'm thinking about hollering at a bunch of young kids in the front row of the grandstands, me like, that's the serial killer over there. And they're like, wait, what? You know?
Yeah, so and that's why we did the thing with Tony the Tiger. And a picture of a cartoon with Tony the Tiger from the cereal.
Try to soften it up a little bit.
Yeah, you know? So that's just, I hate when they do that, but
no, it's absolutely incredible, man. Hey, real quick before we bring on our next guest, and I want to keep you around for a few minutes if you've got time, Ken, because we've got another guest in the green room. But JT, let's pay some bills real quick. And I want to remind everybody that each and every episode of the West Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is known for their top quality racing safety equipment, from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits and blankets, all 100% made into America. Of course, they are the official safety solution of the Drag Illustrated Winter Series. So make sure you log on to StroudSafety.com and let them know that we sent you. Guys, we've got our runner-up, our other finalist in the green room right now. Let's give it up for the one, the only Lyle Barnett. What's going on, buddy?
What up?
What's up, Mike? You can come back. Where'd Mike go? We can have 4 people on the screen. Michael, get back in here.
How's JT, man? JT likes to pull me off. If I get going, he wants to reel me back in.
He's got to reel you back in. Lyle, welcome to the show. Congratulations on a hell of a weekend. You're another gentleman who's had a lot of success at Bradenton Motorsports Park. It was no surprise to see you in the thick of things this weekend and a huge rebound from the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals. Why don't you just touch real quick on, getting that monkey off your back that was simply qualifying down at Bradenton for these events?
I'm still thinking about that one foul opportunity that Ken gave me in the final right there to do anything great. I've seen some comments already about that Ken tattooed my ass, and he absolutely did.
No,
but I will say I'll take 10 on either side of 20 as opposed to 001.
Yeah,
so Ken, you absolutely laid one on me.
That stuff gives you nightmares. Thinking
Oh,
about 001.
I'll think about this until the day I die.
Yeah, me too.
I can still remember Memphis 2017. I think Matt Bell beat me on a hole shot at Tyler Crossnose Outlaw Streetcar Reunion. Ron Rhodes beat me on a hole shot in Leaf Spring in South Georgia when I was like 17 years old or something. I'll never forget those. Fucking hate it. But anyway, no, we went to the Snowbirds, and there's absolutely no denying, I've said it 100 times, that we did not have a very good outing in the Pro Mod. It turns out we had some problems, electrical, that were causing us some issues that we did not find until the Monday Nationals following Sunday eliminations from the Snowbirds, and got all that fixed, came off the trailer literally in Bradenton Q1 and ran really well, and the car just did what it was supposed to do. I'll be the first to admit we got a lot of luck on Sunday, more than most. I had a hole out from the step in E1. Kenny Lang had problems. I saw 3 red lights in the other lane in a row to put me in the final. But again,
that's not Lyle. That's not luck. I mean, we've seen that before. That happened to you in the U.S. Nationals also, and it's because of the opponent they're facing in the other lane. They know what kind of lights you're going to cut. So I don't look at that as pure luck.
No.
But
I raced him in the final was the hardest I was pushing the tree.
Obviously, I mean, clearly.
But
I mean, it is true. You build a reputation.
Yes. I raced him. That was the hardest I pushed it.
Thank God you can crank that bad boy down even with your fire gloves on, that fuel tech unit, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty badass. But how crazy is it that you opted not to do that, or kind of had moved on from the moment? Lyle, going into the final, I mean, I know you and Ken are close. You've done all this radial racing and small tire racing together. You're dear friends, and that's one of the things that I'm proud of with the Winter Series. Is it really does feel like we've created something of a fraternity of guys and gals that see this stuff the same way and are all in, are committed to what we're doing and want to be a part of it. But what was it like as the day kind of shook out and then you get down to the final round and you're going to have to run Ken? I thought it was really cool to have both you guys in the winner's circle after the end of the race. We got Tommy and his whole crew up there, Tidwell and his whole crew up there, of course, along with you two guys. And
before that, though, a hell of an interview on Flow between both of you guys individually, and then together they kind of threw it to both of you and just riffing off of each other and complimenting and just kind of talking about some of the history. I wish we had that queued up. We should have, but that was a great moment also. Like just the mutual respect between you guys and your families and crew and everything. That was awesome.
In the semis, we were both praying to baby Jesus when we were doing the chip draw, because all we did want to do is not draw each other in the semis, because we figured at least if one of us got to the final, we'd have a shot. One of us could get some money. So we were so happy that neither one of us drew each other. We were praying like crazy.
I'll be honest. I felt like I had a chance. And I'm not going to say I didn't feel like I had a chance against Kim, but I felt very confident in every round until the final. I was like, man, like we are going to have to make a kill. And we did. We made a really good run for a Pro Charger car in the final. But I was the most nervous in the semifinal chip draw of the entire day. Like I was not nearly as nervous when I ran Antron, or not nearly as nervous when I ran Mike Decker, not nearly as nervous when I ran Ken in the final as I was when I reached in that bag for the semifinal, because I wanted so badly to avoid Ken. And then everybody's like, "Oh, you can't talk," and Courtney pushed me over to the side, and I'm like, "God, please." And it just so happened to work out.
You don't want to race your friend. You don't want to draw a chip and race a friend. And
for me and Ken, it's very you know what I mean? Like that's exactly how we wanted it to happen. We talked about it early in the week. Man, how cool would it be if we were in the final? And then as the day went on, we're kind of like look around the end of the trailer, like this might happen, and damn it, it was awesome.
Oh, we couldn't have asked. I mean, we've been blessed with some incredibly great racing, and to see this eclectic mix of drivers and all these people that rarely see each other at the racetrack, they race in different places. It was what unfolded on Sunday. I thought about it, like Kai Kelly, Stevie Jackson, Lyle Barnett, Mark Mickey, Ken Quartuccio, but like Erica Enders, Antron Brown, Zach Sackman, like these are guys that have likely never faced each other before, never raced against one another. And to have that, that's what I'm proud of what we're delivering to the fans. And I saw somebody put, and you said it, I think in a quote card on the Drag Illustrated social media page, Lyle, that like, you know, I didn't lose, Ken won, but I kind of reiterated that the sport of drag racing really won Sunday night. Like those are the type of moments that we have been dying for. The sport has been dying for that type of electricity and that type of energy. And I got to tell you guys both, like 2 races in a row, we're generating record-setting eyeballs. I mean, not only is the on-track product record-setting, but what's happening on social media and what's happening in terms of web traffic and viewers on the Flow live stream, it's unheard of. It's never been seen before. And the amount of media support and media coverage that we're getting for this event, that was one of a group of people that I should have thanked at the beginning of the show. Is that, I mean, I think we had like 80 credentialed members of the media there, local outlets, international outlets, and everything in between. And to have that type of support, I can't tell you how much of a difference it makes to have those other people preaching the gospel and sharing the message. And my gosh, I mean, our goal has been to turn people such as yourselves, Ken, Lyle, into household names in drag racing. And I feel like every time we have one of these events, every day, we're getting closer and closer to achieving that. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how this stacks up against the pro race, because you're going to, you know, attendance wise or whatever statistics that you guys look at.
We can have that conversation. I'll text you after this is over. I'll text you after this is over, because I'm here to tell you that for anybody that thinks that you have to have Nitro to sell tickets, I can tell you that you're wrong. Yeah. And it's no doubt it's something of a cheat code. It's something of a hack. Whenever you're going to get a lot of the kind of casual fans, but I think when you introduce the star power and when you introduce the storytelling, it kind of transcends what type of cars are involved. Like I really feel confident that I could take this group of characters, this group of drivers, and put them on big wheels and sell tickets to see them compete against one another, because it transcends the type of car. We may, you know, the thrill show that is Nitro racing, there's no doubt. It's a spectacle. It's all those things. But what we have is star power and a whole bunch of people that are leaning into it. And the competition itself kind of breeds that organically. When you've got all these cars that are so close together and all these drivers that are so close together, magic starts to happen. It feels like we've got a little bit of lightning in a bottle right now. And I think World Series will really tell the tale. For those that don't know, and I did post this somewhere on social media, but from this U.S. Street Nationals in 2024 to the U.S. Street Nationals in 2025 this past weekend, we saw a near 150% increase in ticket sales. Concessions had doubled as well. I mean, almost every metric that we track was through the roof. And I think a lot of that started with the Snowbirds and just all the buzz and energy going into that race. We all kind of knew that this was going to be some uncharted waters for us. We're used to putting on one big race a year. And I'm not saying it's easy, because it's not, but you can pour all your effort into that. And we had all had a lot of talks and a lot of conversations, and I'd lost a lot of sleep over, you know, can we keep the energy up for 90 days? You know, this is going to be a different challenge. And we've worked our tails off. Our whole team has worked tirelessly to keep this in the news, keep it in the media, you know, stay in front of everybody and continue to tell these stories from race to race. And yeah, I'm telling you, World Series is going to be absolutely bananas, absolutely bananas in terms of fan turnout. I'm very confident, man.
No, that's good.
No, it's an exciting thing, guys. Well, hey, I want to touch on one more thing before I let you go, Ken, and we'll chat with Lyle for a few, and then we'll go into, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting a lot of questions in the comments. We'll do a little bit of Q&A at the end of the show, but we talked briefly a minute ago with Ken about the points and, you know, are people paying attention to the points? Is this something that people are embracing? What's your take on the points championship, and like, how much would it mean to you to be in that conversation to perhaps, you know, be the inaugural champion of the Drag Illustrated Winter Series?
Which one?
Well, you know,
Lyle.
I went from way outside to, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm in the mix, but some magic could happen, right? And I mean, I hope not for Ken, but some magic could happen. And with 1.5 points going into the World Series, like there is this far out chance now, right? Like mathematically, I think when I kind of figured some things out night before last, I think I could still get there. So for me, it means a lot. I really wish now that we had somewhat of a decent showing at the Snowbirds, obviously now knowing that it would have helped me that much more going to the finals this past weekend. But, that's an extra payday. That's a ring. That's all the things that, at least a young driver like myself that sees the Erica Enders and the Richard Freemans walk around, and all these people with these big championship rings and stuff, like those things are cool and mean something to me. So I just really wish that, things had went better for me early on, because I would love to be one that is being picked, whether it's through DraftKings or Win Like Bets or whatever, that has my odds may be heavy in the plus side, but one that somebody was picking. So, I mean, I think it's cool. I could see Ken's kind of stance that he hates the 1.5 points, but I'm not gonna lie, with me having this slight mathematical chance, I love it. So
No, it's
Yeah.
a definitely difference.
No,
It's
you
definitely a
hate it.
difference maker.
You're way up there, you're gonna hate it. But if you're like
yeah, of
yourself,
course.
Yeah.
you're what, 10th? I think you're 9th or 10th right now, right?
I'm
I mean, you're
eighth. Yeah,
8th.
eighth.
Yeah, I think you and Eric are 8th and 9th.
Yeah.
You've got a chance. And then
Yeah.
we made some adjustments. And we were talking about that with Ken before he came on here to help the Pro Charger combination a little bit. And so you got that going for you going into World Series as well.
And you're going to race. Think about it. He's going to race me as hard. If I draw him first round, he's going to race me as hard.
Don't
He
say-
doesn't care. They will blow it up to beat me. And when it's a ladder, that doesn't happen like that, So
Yeah, clearly.
I-
we will
I
blow
keep
it up.
putting-
he will
beat
blow
you.
it up. Tommy Owens don't mess around.
No, he does not, man. And what a great dude. I mean, that is something that is just so cool about how many incredible people are involved in this. Like, I rolled down through the pits there on Sunday morning, and I'm like, man, whoever would have thought, we'd have 69 world-class pro mods in one place at one time, and everybody, a bunch of great people. I mean, it's no secret Wes has a strict no asshole policy, and we live by that. That we want people involved in this that understand the bigger picture, are excited and eager to be a part of it, and want to be a part of that fraternity, because it's, I venture to say that if they had the parts, Lyle, and you needed them, Scott Tidwell and Ken Quartuccio would be the first ones over there helping you bolt them on to make sure that they were able to race you in the final. And I know that goes both ways. We saw some of that throughout the course of the weekend. Actually, Travis Harvey, they had a screw blower issue or whatever, and Tidwell was over there tossing them one to put on that thing. And that's the type of sportsmanship that makes this whole thing so special, because it's, you guys are going up there to chop each other's heads off, but outside of those concrete walls, this is a group of people that would do anything for one another.
Yeah, and just one last thing I would say is for these guys, and then I'll get off. But my two pit bull daughters were on the defense on social media, because there was people that were saying comments that, oh, look at those guys, they don't even care about winning. Because my guys walked off the starting line. They did a little bit but quietly. So, of course, my pit bull daughters go on the defense, and they're family to us. Tommy Yeomans, the Barnetts, me and my wife and Lyle's parents went out to dinner the night before. So, people are saying, oh, why aren't you guys jumping up and down and running around like maniacs? It's because we care about the people we race, and Lyle's the same way. And that's the kind of testament to the kind of people Tommy Yeomans and his whole crew is.
Oh, no doubt. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, because you compare and contrast that with what happened when Kai Kelly took out Stevie in E1. His crew was running halfway down the track celebrating, but it also shows that that relationship doesn't exist there, and the coolest part about it, this, in my opinion, is that we have both. We have that highly respectful, type of competition that we had there in the final round between two guys that were fairly evenly matched, and going up there with a tremendous amount of respect. But then you've also got some of these that got a little bit of salt on them, that, hey, there's some history here, and you need them both, man. And no, I didn't catch any of that, but I'll tell you, anybody who didn't see the tears in your wife's eyes, I'll tell you, Ken, those moments I cherish. those starting line moments and those high emotion moments, I cherish them. I'll never forget them. And I wrapped my arms around your wife, and she was crying and the girls were crying. And you realize how much everybody pours into this, whether you're the one driving the car, tuning the car, or hanging out and supporting everybody. This stuff means a lot. People dedicate their lives to it. And that's kind of what makes it all worth it for us and our whole crew, is seeing that type of reaction, man. Well, Ken, seriously, thank you so much for an hour of your afternoon. We appreciate it very much. We can't wait to see you in a few short weeks for the Drag Illustrated World Series of Pro Mod coming up February 27th through March 1st. And we'll see if Ken can make history.
From today.
4 weeks from today, we'll see if Ken can make history and become the first ever inaugural Drag Illustrated Winter Series champion. Thank you so much, Ken. I look forward to seeing you, buddy.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
See you, Ken.
Buddy.
Thanks, Ken.
Everybody. See ya.
Lyle, we will run through just a little bit with you. I mean, I still want to talk just a little bit about the, kind of get off the pro mod thing just a little bit, because it's definitely what I want to talk about. But I do just wonder how you're kind of managing racing all these different cars at the same event. Like, that's something that I hear a lot of people ask about. And I'm curious that, like, now that you've been to a final, because I'm sure at the first race, you probably could have made an argument. And I'm just putting words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, maybe we should focus on one, not have too many irons in the fire or whatever. But then you fast forward to the U.S. Street Nationals, and you think about how many times you were in the water box and how many times you took the tree, and it probably felt more like this is an advantage. So I'm just curious kind of your reaction to that whole scenario.
There are times throughout the day that I'm like, I cannot drive 3 cars anymore. Like, this is too much. And there are other times that, like, the hustle and the bustle and to get me back to the starting line, like, keeps me going throughout the day, So, I don't suggest to anyone out there driving 3 cars in one day. However, this past weekend, I did truly enjoy it. I honestly felt like I had 3 cars that could go the distance. And, in the first or second round of LDR, I was 18 on the tree and got beat on a hole shot. I think we were low in E1, maybe in Pro 275, and then second round it just goes out there and takes the tire off. And honestly, like, the Pro 275 car is kind of like my guaranteed horse. You know what I mean? Like, if everything else goes wrong, old salvage title's gonna get it done. And, like, all of a sudden, all we have is the pro mod left, and I'm like, well, shit. I went in the trailer and talked to Lee. He was like, it's going to be all right, man. He said, I think I've got some things figured out. I think we got a chance today, and of course, I mean, I felt like we did too, but not as good as we did in the Mustang. And it did allow us, I think, to have a little more focus strictly on what was right in front of us. And I don't know, Wes, I think, as far as keeping me in the car and cutting the light and seeing the tree triple the amount of time somebody else does in one day, an advantage, yes. I think one, like, Lee tunes all 3 of those cars that I drive. I think him able to kind of scale down and focus on one did help us late in the day in the pro mod. So you could see that both sides of the fence, really. I think it can be an advantage. I think it can be a disadvantage.
I think whenever I thank you for that. I'm curious. We've had a ton of commentary here in the comments, and I appreciate everybody that joins us here every Wednesday afternoon and participates in this conversation. It's a really important aspect of this. A lot of people asking about the Stevie Jackson Kai Kelly matchup in round 1. I know you're close with Stevie. You got the Shake and Bake podcast with Stevie and Courtney Enders. What was your just reaction when that was all unfolding?
Well, when they drew each other, I turned around. I was like, there's no way this just happened. Actually, I thought y'all were joking for a second. I was like, they just did this. And then, like, I knew that Stevie had drawn a 12, and I'm like, well, shit, maybe Kai did too, and then, I mean, sure enough, it was good to go. And they're like, well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? And I'm like, dude, I'll be honest, I just did not have a good feeling, about for Stevie. Because I'm like, there's no win in this for him. Like, if he wins, he should have. If he didn't, it's just internet doom for years to come. But I'm like, hell, it is what it is. This is the way it's going to be. And I heard of a bunch of big bets going on, and I was like, man, I ain't betting $1. Like, this is way too close for a race than people think, and whatnot. And Kai went out there and did Kai Kelly things. He laid the tree down, and Jeff Pierce had a tune up in it that got the job done, but honestly, like my initial reaction was like, God, I feel so bad for Stevie for the next couple of weeks because the internet's gonna rip him apart, and like
I felt the same way. I'm going,
I'm a
oh
little
shit,
nervous.
like Kai's kind of playing with house money here, because exactly what you said is right. Like, if you win, you're supposed to win. You're an NHRA Pro Mod World Champion, and of course you beat me. I'm a street racer. But it is interesting to see how quickly Kai, clearly that win at the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals was no fluke. And I do think there were some people that kind of thought, that it was some sort of fluke, or it just was a moment in time. But as soon as they made that rip in Q1, it's like, these guys are very, very good at what they do. They're for real.
Yep. Yeah. And, and I still see the comments about Kai's car, that it was an IROC Z that somebody pushed to the side after a Barrett Jackson auction or something like that. Like, man, that thing's a pro mod. Don't take away from that thing being an old Jeff Pierce. I mean, Jeff Pierce has a lot of history with that car. Yes, it has a steel roof and quarter. Yes, they front halved it to make it +2 on the wheelbase rule. that thing's still a badass pro mod. And Kai is one of those racers, or one of those NPK Street Outlaw guys that's that dude can flat drive a freaking race car. And you can watch a car make runs and kind of know if it's just the car's good, or if the driver's really having to do it. Like, that car is good, but Kai Kelly has to flat climb up on the wheel in that thing sometimes. That thing goes by the 330 cone and you could walk under the front wheels. Like, that thing is flat hunting out there. And they're not easy to drive like that, because the way we sit in those cars, the blower up, in the middle, like, Kai sees zero racetrack for a minute in there. Like, you're not seeing the scoreboards, maybe. Right. And so at least I do it, you get the wheels up that high and you just kind of look out over your left shoulder and try to kind of gauge where you are in relation to the wall or the center line or whatever, and I'm sure that's the way Kai drives. Hell, he has to. He can't drive it any other way unless he just shuts his eyes and hope it sets down. But like those things, that thing's is an animal. Like, I don't think people really understand when that car makes a really good run, like Kai Kelly is flat driving that thing.
Oh, be there, no doubt. And he's told me that a couple of times, like, hey man, as good as it looks going down the track, it is a handful in there.
Yeah, I guarantee.
But that's what we're here to do. How much do you think this whole experiment has served the Street Outlaws in the No Prep Kings group? I mean, you look at how Scott Taylor ran this week. I mean, honestly, even at the first race, I mean, I was really impressed with Jim Howe's car being, considerably heavier, and really not able to make weight. I mean, they ran well. Larry Larson, he didn't qualify for the street at US Streets, but he did run a 370 flat or with a 4, I think. And I was really impressed with how all of our Street Outlaws, Robin Roberts made some good runs, and, with a brand new car, they're just probably a few runs away from where they want to be. But how much do you think this has kind of helped their, I mean, they had a ton of street cred, but probably not as much drag strip credibility as they maybe deserved. And I think that they're really shutting a lot of people up that called that, that looked down upon or spoke poorly of what happens in No Prep Kings.
Yeah, I mean, I think it proved to some of the No Prep Kings haters that those guys can drive, but I'll be the first one to say that I think it's helped us more than we have helped them. It's brought probably some eyes to specifically the Winter Series, and then probably Pro Mod abroad. It's brought some eyes that may not have even really known much about it to it. And I think it's probably caused more of a divide between the No Prep Kings fans and maybe some racers and the Pro Mod fans and Pro Mod racers, which we need some of that. There needs to be some pick a side, cheer for your No Prep Kings guys, cheer for us Pro Mod guys, whatever you want to say about that there. But, I do think, and it deserves saying that those guys coming over here, spending real money, buying parts from, all of our, me and you and partners of yours and whatnot. Like, I do think they've done more for us than probably at least Lyle and I can do for them. And I appreciate what they've done. They don't have to come over here and do this. You give them the invite, they have to show up. So I do appreciate what they've done, because, there's definitely a whole new genre, if you will, of fan watching what we're doing over here because of them.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that there's a yin and yang to it, because I do think that a lot of those guys that I've gotten close with or gotten to know, they have been looking for that kind of legitimization or being legitimized. They were looking, they know that they've kind of been part of this TV show, and there's all this hubbub about it's just show more than it's a race, blah, 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 all these things. Those of us that know those folks and know everybody that's involved know how real No Prep Kings racing has been. But I think giving them the opportunity to come over here and prove, their merit and demonstrate that they deserve to be in the conversation alongside the Lyle Barnetts and Jay Coxes and Mark Mickeys, et cetera, I think it provides a lot of value to them. But I can't argue with you at all. Like the way things unfolded at the Snowbirds with Kai going to the final and winning the race, like bringing those millions of eyeballs to hardcore high-level door slammer racing was a magical moment. And to be able to continue that with Murder Nova getting involved and Scott Taylor running well and Larry Larson showing up and Robin Roberts building a brand new purpose-built pro modified car, like there's a lot of things happening in that space that is a high tide lifts all boats, right? And bringing all that new fresh energy, new fans that are kind of already trained to love door cars. They maybe don't even know some of the variations of drag racing that exist, but this isn't us having to convince people that are a fan of some other style of, dragsters or funny cars or whatever. A lot of the older demo still looks back on the glory days of Top Fuel racing or 64 funny cars at Orange County, blah, 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 all those things. These guys have kind of gotten their, the drag racing hook was set by way of cars that still look like cars. Yeah. So this is just kind of like a real natural evolution and progression of it. It's an exciting thing to see unfold, man. And I'm so happy to see that happen because that's what we were going for, right? I mean, it's the same reason we want Erica Enders there and we want Antron Brown there. We want the best drivers, the best teams from all walks of the drag racing life to come down here and climb behind the wheel of an outlaw pro mod and when we all get to see who's who. It's a pretty special thing, man.
It is. I agree with that.
I'm looking forward to seeing how all this continues to unfold. So, hey, give us a real quick, kind of just expectation. What kind of things are you guys, what's your plans between now and the World Series of Pro Mod? Is this something that you guys will look to test? We took a little bit of weight off the Pro Charger cars, no sort of wholesale changes, but obviously something that's going to help a little bit. What's kind of the game plan, for the fans that are paying attention? What's it look like, having an entire season happen within 90 days? What's your game plan from race to race?
I feel like we probably ran well enough there, especially the last couple rounds. I think Erica may have went 60 with a 2 or something like that, but I think we made one of, if not the best, second best Pro Charger runs of the week. So I doubt we probably roll into Bradenton test early that week, starting on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then roll into qualifying there for the World Series. But the week before that, we will all be at South Georgia Motorsports Park for Lights Out 16. I'll drive both the Rob Kohler owned LDR Camaro, which I also drove this past weekend there in Bradenton, and Tommy Human's Pro 275 car. So I'll be in 2 cars there, and then we will focus on one the very next week at the World Series. So also I left the shop today to come and my home internet's not doing very well, but MacFab, we will be doing on-site beadlocks down there at Lights Out 16. We literally take everything that we use daily out of the shop, put it in our trailer, set it up in South Georgia, and we'll beadlock 20 to 30 sets of wheels on site there at the racetrack. And my list is nearly full. So if anybody is listening on here that wants on that list, you better call today or tomorrow. Once we're full, we're full. So between now and then, it's just balls to the wall at the shop. I got a picture yesterday. Motors are out of every car that Tommy owns and ready to be serviced, the Pro Mod included, because we scorched one pretty good there in the final trying to run with Ken. And I'll hit on that for a second. We were in the trailer, and we knew that Ken and them probably had a 50-something teed up in that thing. And I am hoarse. Literally, I'm hoarse from yelling in my helmet every round that I won this weekend. When Decker turned it red, like I was just like in my helmet, like you couldn't even hear anything, But anyway, we were in the trailer, and we knew that Ken Petty probably had a 50-something teed up for Ken. And not that we can't. We just there's a much larger step from 60 and 61. There's a much larger step from 63 to 61 than there is from 60 to 57, right? Like I said that backwards, but you know what I mean. The step to 57 like that. You can't just do that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't stumble upon that. Like, there's a lot of work involved in those few hundredths and thousandths of a second, right? And, you know, and Lee's like, man, I don't know. I feel like we can go 60 flat. I just don't know if we can go 59. And you're like, well, I mean, it's that big of a deal. You know, it's that hard to do. And Tommy literally said, I don't give a shit. Blow it up. Let's go as fast. And we did, you know, we did. We went 60 flat and burnt that bitch up in the lights. You know, and we've know what to do and what not to do to not allow that not to happen next time, you know, but you got to do things like that and figure out, well, we can make a little change here and a little change there, you know, a degree or two in the stator or whatever. And we can go 60 flat again and not burn it up. But we had to go out there and burn it up to figure it out, you know. And you know, you guys said it earlier, Tommy, flat willing to do whatever it takes to win, you know, and we proved that right there in the final. But I doubt we test. We'll spend that whole week there with you for the World Series testing. And right now focused on getting Tommy's LDR car, the Pro 275 car, and the Kohler LDR car ready for lights out, which is just a week prior. So 2 weeks on the road, 2 weeks of racing, but pumped, man. I'm ready to rip. Dude,
I'm excited too, man. And I
was,
just want to
when I woke up Monday morning though, Lyle, I was, you know, as much as I want to see you win, Monday morning, I was pretty grateful that you didn't. My head felt pretty good.
Oh, I can assure you of one thing. Had we won that race, I'd have set the pool table on fire in Linksters that night.
Oh, dude, what a big time, man. Hey, Lyle, seriously, thank you for being a part of this craziness. It means the world to me. I really feel like something magic's happening here, and it's such an honor to have you and your family be a part of what we're building in Bradenton, and I honestly can't wait to see what happens next, man. Thanks for all you do, and I guess we'll see you in a couple of days. That
sounds good, man. We'll get ready to go to lights out and pumped to get old clean title, as Tommy calls it, back in the water box in Bradenton, man. We had a really good week, and thank you guys for what you do, man. You know, I've hoped for a long time that maybe one day the pro mod world could attract enough eyes and sponsorship that instead of most of these guys paying to do it, we could get paid to do it. And like, I feel like we're on the way. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but
you gave me goosebumps.
I feel like,
but yes, that's 100%. Like
what's happening,
we have to change the drag racing economy, and this is how you do it.
You know, I was thinking about this today. Like, if Kyle Larson, and I'm not saying I'm the Kyle Larson of pro mod racing, but if Kyle Larson can go out there and get paid to drive everything under the sun, why can't I? You know what I mean?
I agree.
Like, it's just a different style of racing, and I believe that we're on the way to that. So
we are on the way to that.
I hope I'm right, because I'm ready to make some money.
Well, and I tell you what, if it's the last thing I do, I will die trying to create that kind of environment. And we're headed that direction, man. I mean, and it's call around, you know, you talk to some of these Top Fuel funny car guys, and I'll never downplay or disparage that brand of drag racing. I love it. And I think it gets taken out of context sometimes. But the fact of the matter is, we've got to create a platform in drag racing that is no doubt not cheap. You know, no one's here to say it's cheap, but it is attainable, and it is within the realm of reason to be able to offset the expense of racing a pro mod with sponsor support, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we're inching closer towards it, man. And Lyle, you're a huge part of it. I appreciate. We're blessed to have a bunch of racers that help us. That was one of the things that I was so proud of and so excited about with the Street Outlaw participation is all those guys have been eager participants, sharing, you know, stuff on their social media, being a part of the promotion of these events, helping us grow this brand. And you're a guy who has been driving that bus for a long time. And I really appreciate it, dude. It's exciting to get to do this stuff with such incredible people, man.
Well, it takes all of us, you know, you say it all the time, everybody rowing in the same direction, you know, and I do wish that more of them would jump on board, you know, and put yourself out there, video yourself doing something dumb, take advantage of the social media platform that you guys quite literally give us. So I hope more people do that. And for the love of God, find some of these very talented young people that are out there with cameras and cell phones to help you capture stuff like this. I'm so bad at doing it myself. Same. So I finally have figured that out, right? And there are young boys and girls that are willing, you drivers, I'm talking to you, that are willing for very reasonable daily rate to come and film and put together really nice videos and stuff. And like all those videos I post this weekend that are all edited up with music and stuff, not me. not me at all. But you know, that like use those people, man. They're talented and they need the work, and two, it really helps for what we're trying to do here. So, all right, that's enough.
Be there, no
I'm
doubt. I'm glad you mentioned it because it's
rambling.
You're right,
you know,
man. Yeah, preach it.
100%. They're out there. I mean, we're so lucky. We show up at these races and there's more cameras pointed at people than anywhere else in the sport of drag racing. And we just need more and more and more of that. I mean, I look at the people that we've kind of seen. Steve King. You know, I think Steve King, most people wouldn't even know what he looked like a year ago. And now with the help of ET Edits, Jen, and that, you know,
So,
he's great. I mean,
That's
he's absolutely fantastic.
ET Edits is who did mine. And she does a really good job. She's one that kind of keeps her clientele list short so that she can provide for those out there, you know, but she does a phenomenal job. There's a bunch of them though. You know, some you may not even know. Put a feeler out there, find somebody. Like I drove 3 cars, had 0 GoPros in any cars this past weekend. Dumb. Why? Because because I was on a scooter with a helmet under my arm riding back to the start.
Yeah, you were a little bit busy.
I just didn't have time. But yeah, like we got to use these people, man. Like they're all these sponsors and stuff. They want to know how many eyeballs are on the shit you're doing. And if you're not giving anybody anything to look at, missing the boat, dog. Missing the boat.
100%, man. What do they say? If you don't toot your own horn, you can't complain when there's no music.
That's exactly right.
And it's an uncomfortable thing. I think all of us agree that it's a weird thing and it's an uncomfortable thing. But in this day and age, if you're in business, you're in show business, like it or not, man.
Yep.
So, Lyle, thanks a bunch, dude. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Thanks, Lyle. Hey, JT, let's pay some bills here. I want to take a minute and remind each and every one of you that each episode of the Wes Buck Show is brought to you by way of our friends at Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that perform and protect better than any on the market, and they've been doing it since 1979. Whether it's your race car, your tow rig, your motorcycle, or your lawnmower, when you think about lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com and support the official oil of the Drag Illustrated Winter Series. Guys, we've had such a great chat today and so much commentary in here. We'll do a couple of rounds. Let's give them 10 minutes of let's do 10 minutes of Q&A here. So if you have a question or something that we didn't cover that you want to hear, maybe something that's not Drag Illustrated Winter Series, there's a ton of stuff going on in the sport right now. We're staring down the barrel of the start of the NHRA drag racing series. Gainesville, the Gator Nationals is coming right up. We also have Sick Week. We're halfway through Sick Week. The boys of Drag and Drive, or boys and girls of Drag and Drive, are down in Bradenton Motorsports Park as we speak, getting ready to finish up the day and head on to the next racetrack. There's a ton of killer stuff going on in the sport right now. As Lyle said, we're a few short weeks away from Lights Out 16 down at South Georgia Motorsports Park. Excited to see that event unfold. There's a lot of great stuff going on. Grant Bake is asking us, guys, do you think we'll hit 100 cars for World Series of Pro Mod? No, because we won't invite that many cars, Grant. But we will. I have a little bit of a personal goal. I really like some of the history that we have made in 2024 and 25. And I really feel strongly that I want to make sure that we have the largest contingent of Pro Mod cars on the property in the history of the world. So we will keep you posted. I do think Mike and JT have been on my ass to put out like a complete entry list well before the event. So I do think that we will go ahead and do that in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and we also have to be mindful of guys just popping in like this. Ken spoke to it a lot on the points and a half, and the guys that have been running the first 2 races that are in there, that we would kind of want to reward and maybe even kind of close it down outside of a couple of exceptions to guys that have run the first 2 races of the series and make World Series truly exclusive, and guys that have supported it so far. So we're working through all that, kind of have our final list coming together this week.
Yeah. George Rubistello, would you do a top sportsman class? Yes, we have $50,000 to win the Intercontinental Top Sportsman Championship, taking place the second annual at the World Series of Pro Mod. $50,000 to win in top sports, and we got a bunch of heavy hitters that are going to be there. It's exciting.
Yep.
Luis Chiprez, Will World Series of Pro Mod be slick only? Yes, it will be slick only. We'll have a much more concise show. at the World Series of Pro Mod, which we're very excited about. Keith Haney in the house. Keith Haney was another one that I was so glad to have him there. Huge personality, a dear friend of mine, and it was awesome to another one that's exploding on social media. Michael Narks, following him around with a camera all weekend. He was creating all sorts of killer moments for social media. Got to see him and Lyle popping off at each other at Wolves Head Pizza. Shout out to our friends at Wolves Head who welcome us in. We had a hell of a party there on Wednesday night, a little bit of a pre-race festivity that was badass, man.
Scott Malpass here says, great work on the mic, Mike. And him and Victor.
Yeah, let's give Mike a round of applause. I've so many
freaking awesome. I was like,
Mike doing a great job.
Yeah, that was fun, man. And I got to say, Brian Loans makes it easy, man. So he's such a pro. Like, I feel like, you know, we were rotating people in and out of there. It doesn't matter who you pair him up with. He makes it easy for you up there. So,
don't sell yourself short on that, man. I mean, I seriously, like, you and Vic up there, it was natural.
Vic did a great job too, man.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was cool to have Brian. I mean, just having him there, period. And we're going to have him for World Series as well. I think elevated the show a lot. And let's on that same deal, Flow. I think that's like their third broadcast in a row from Bradenton. That's been just flawless. So those guys, I can't be more impressed with sort of their hitting their groove also at broadcasting our events. And it's just all coming together.
We had Al and Steve Logan as well there.
Yeah,
so,
I'm really happy with this.
Really
was the team
great.
we were going for. You know, this is what we were going for, to have this kind of triple threat. Steve Logan, Al Tucci, the iconic voice of outlaw drag racing, along with the super polished professional Brian Loans, and kind of merge these worlds much like we do on the racetrack. And the addition of Loans was absolutely spectacular. And I'm so excited to have him at the World Series of Pro Mod. Question here from Stevie Pill. Can we get Austin Prock in a Pro Mod? I don't know if we can pull that off. It's not impossible, but I will tell you what, you would be shocked by the number of world champion caliber top fuel and funny car racers who have in recent weeks or months expressed interest in putting together a Pro Mod operation specifically to run the Drag Illustrated Winter Series. And
look how much fun AB's having out there.
I mean, AB's
those
that
interviews from AB are just freaking killer, man.
Jerome,
Antron Brown,
he was his
Jerome.
character this weekend. Jerome driving black ice. I think that helps a lot. But I'll say that I just think that we're kind of proving the concept. I think when you go into this Winter Series now, this will be like our third World Series of Pro Mod at Bradenton. And it's like, all right, this deal is not a flash in the pan. They're continuing to evolve it and grow it. We need to get on board with this and get involved. So I think it's just like standing the test of time. And then having, you know, Antron, Stevie, Lyle, Erica, some of these names that kind of come over from that NHRA side helps a lot too.
Yeah, I see Gary Varney in here. Gary's one of my favorite people to see at the racetrack. He says, thanks for having us 550 guys. I'm a big believer in index racing, man. And I just think that we need to see more of it. It's a great fit. It's heads up. Yeah, there's an ET cap, but it looks so much better on the track than stagger start handicap style bracket racing. And I just absolutely love it. And the cool thing about Gary and all those guys is they support what we're doing. They show up at the parties, they show up and participate. They're excited to be there. They don't complain. They're a fantastic addition to what we're doing.
While we're talking about our crew, Kayla, we can't forget Kayla.
Oh yeah.
Not only was she doing on-camera stuff that we saw, but she was absolutely grinding on social media, all those graphics that you saw throughout the weekend. I mean, that is a ton to keep up with. Craig Cook,
her and Craig were
a
little
awesome
box
duo.
in there, you know.
Yep, and we were a man down. We didn't have Nate Van Wagenen, who celebrated the birth of his first child with his wife Allison and was not at this event. And those two, I think, were the MVPs of the weekend for our team. And I just wanted to give them a shout out. Also, Josh, Jenny, Nancy, Melanie, all working the all working the merch stand. And we did a ton of merch sales. Then that is a grind also all day. Right there behind the water box where we've got them. That's not an easy job at all. Kevin Contardo running around, keeping everybody fed, making deals, partnerships, kind of keeping us hooked in with the local businesses there. He does a great job. Brett Underwood doing his thing. Yep. Jordan DaCosta helping us out. Van Abernathy, Michael. I don't know Michael's last name. That Michael that hangs out with Van. takes a lot. It takes a whole village, man. I just want to make sure that we didn't forget the rest of our crew too.
We're blessed to have an incredible group of people that are working their ever loving asses off on this deal. I see Thunder Road Racing asking, are you going to have little gangstas at World Series of Pro Mod? Stay tuned. More to come on that in the coming days. What else do we got? Feels like there's
Jolie
more hype around
Stanfield
the DI
says
series
that
and the pro race.
she wants to go pro mod racing.
And
Ooh, I like to hear that.
You guys should.
That would be
I tell you what, I talked to Richard Freeman this morning, the principal there at Elite Motorsports in Wynnewood, Oklahoma, and he's hooked.
I like that.
He is hooked. I think it's taken a while to get him really fired up about pro mod racing. He's just such a dyed-in-the-wool pro stock guy, but he sees the opportunity. He sees what's happening in this scene. He feels the energy, and he's excited to be a part of it, man. So I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, who I'd really like to see, like Paige Coughlin, TJ Coughlin. Those would be huge additions to what we do. And I'd love to see, selfishly, that Jags yellow and black on a race car on the drag strip at Bradenton Motorsports Park. I think it'd be cool to make.
We forgot two more members of our team, JB and Tom, doing setup and tear down. Those guys were there first, last to leave, and just almost doing it like invisibly. I mean, it's just like this stuff is up. It's where it needs to be. They're another part of our crew that have learned the ropes of that place and exactly where everything needs to go and how to make it look awesome. And they do it without us even having to think about it. So kudos to those guys too.
Incredible, man. JB and Tom do such a great job and work their asses off.
Gavin, race director
Gavin, Law,
Mike
everybody
Washington.
up in the tower. It's Mike
you
Washington.
Start
Daryl Jackson.
Our team's
Daryl Jackson stepped in for us for the last several years. Luke Nyhoff, who's a part of the Sick Magazine crew, has been our official photographer. Daryl Jackson stepped in with Luke out of pocket for Sick Week, of course, and absolutely crushed it, working with Kayla and Craig and Josh to make sure we had whatever photos we needed for social media graphics. And I just couldn't be more proud of those guys. And I love Daryl, actually. He's become a buddy. I see Randy Johnston. Speaking of great voices, Alan Reinhart and all that is happening at IHRA. Honestly, there's a lot of movement over there. I'm not sure what all is totally happening. They made some big announcements last week with Rick Schaefer and Alex Roach taking over kind of the leadership of the IHRA, and then they announced Alan Reinhart joining the group. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, it's just a wild thing to think about, a voice that's been attached to the NHRA for 3 decades, wearing a different logo on his chest. So I think it'll be interesting to see how all that unfolds. NC Pro Mod, NC Pro Modder, he kind of, I hated it for old Jay Warren. He got the short end of the stick this week because he wasn't able to film any testing because it was all rained out. But he's a stud, man, and he's going to be at World Series of Pro Mod, kind of following the action all week long and the build up to qualifying and elimination. So I'm excited about that. What else do we have here, guys?
Would you add Pro Import to the Winter Series?
Would I add? So here's where we're at with Pro Import, and Vic and I talk about this a lot. I'm a believer, and I think that we need to have rules for the 2JZ combination. A lot of those cars are set up to run quarter mile. They're obviously super lightweight. And
you have rules for it.
We do, but they're close.
They're what do you want to call it? A baseline or a framework for possible future inclusion.
But what I would rather see than adding Pro Import, and I can't remember who asked this. Oh, Jason Bello. What I would rather see happen, Jason, in my opinion, is I want them to race in Pro Mod. I don't want to create a new class for them because it kind of flies in the face of what we're trying to build here, where you're bringing all these stars to a single eliminator. So the goal for us would be to get that brand of racing, Pro Import racing, to a performance level in the 8th mile where they could come down and be a part of the Winter Series and be competitive alongside Mark Mickey, Ken Quartuccio, Lyle Barnett, etc. And I don't think we're terribly far away from that. We're close. I think there's a couple of those cars that have been in the high 360s, bottom 370s. So I don't think we're like a country mile away from it, but we're probably a little bit away from it. But if I had my druthers, next year we would have some of the top pro import cars in the country throwing their hat into the ring alongside the biggest and baddest sons of bitches on the planet Earth. What else do we got? Will be next line. Okay, what else do we got? Grant Blake says we should do World Series of Pro Mod banners with the merch too. And I do think I had so many people ask me if they could have a barrier cover this past weekend that I'm going, okay, we should probably add some sort of flag or banner to our merch order for World Series.
Flag would probably be the best.
Flag would probably do it, right? So
not the flags
Josh Dixon, if you're looking,
huge.
Yeah, no, not the 13-foot flags, but like a standard American flag sized flag, right?
Yeah,
right.
Something like
there's
that.
Coming like badass flags that you can put on your car and shit. Like 3x5.
You know what I love? Speaking of flags, is I love Raymond Matos and Isaiah Rojas with the Puerto Rican flags on their cars during the burnout.
Cool, isn't it?
Like, I almost feel like we should make it mandatory. Like, if you're from America, like Dimitri should have a Russian flag on there, all of our, or even your state flag. I may buy them myself. JT, let's look about getting flags for everybody, whatever state they're from. And if they're not from a state that we're like, a United state, we'll do the country of origin. But wouldn't that be badass? I love those little layers. It's only 75 sets of flags.
There's only 70 pro mods. Back of this.
I got the list right here on my phone. Texas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana. It's not impossible. But I think that would be a great thing.
It would be.
What else? How about some cookies for the summer? I don't know what that means. The pic of Shannon Jenkins doing a burnout with the cap off at SGMP is badass. It's probably one of my favorite photos ever. That photo right there. Brett Kepner took that in 2006, I believe, at SGMP during the ADRL winter drags. And that was the same weekend that Shannon went 399 with a 2, the first ever 3-second pass for a nitrous.
But before
car.
that, he grenaded the fucking nose.
Blew the whole front end off the thing.
That thing had a nice paint job. I remember that too. Like, didn't have like a metallic white or a pearl white or something.
It was like a pearl white with pearl blue stripes.
Yeah.
The classic Speed Tech logo on the door. That's probably one of my favorite pro mods.
I've never seen, I don't know if I've ever seen a nose just disintegrate. There was like paint flakes and stuff all over the starting line the whole rest of the weekend.
JT knows this, but I actually have a collection of photos of cars doing burnouts without their front ends on.
Yep.
I am somehow fascinated or enamored with it. Like, it's just cool because you kind of get to see the mechanical, all the wires and billet aluminum, everything. I've got a great shot of Khaled Al-Belushi's Pro Nitrous car over in Qatar with the front end off. I've got a couple of Greg Anderson cars testing at Mooresville with the front end off. A handful of them, but they're like, they're worth their weight in gold to me. So if any of you photographers watching have those photos, send them to me.
Those guys hauled ass so much back then. I wish we should have made a rule they had to run with no nose.
Yeah, right.
all Nabi, Shannon, Belushi, no nose.
No, they still would. Travis Turnmeyer, I am so excited. I'm going to attend. Hey, man, I can't wait to see you. Make sure you track us down. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm on the starting line anytime there's a pro mod in the water. So come look us up, dude. We're gonna have a badass VIP experience. If you're looking for tickets, don't sleep on our VIP experience. We're gonna have. I'm adding some sound equipment to our VIP tent so we can do interviews. We'll have a better audio for the chip draw. A lot of those things that I just kind of want to level up. We're also going to ramp up the production a little bit at World Series of Pro Mod. We really wanted to make sure that the Snowbirds,
the ideas. So
yeah, I know.
Stop.
I really wanted to make sure that Snowbirds and US Streets were like parallel from a production standpoint, and that it all, there was no like noticeable difference or step down or step up. But now that we kind of maintained, kept that wherever we are, like reset the bar and maintained it, I want to level it up a notch at World Series. So we're going to pour the coals to it. I'm really excited about it, man.
Ken Collins was he got auto-corrected. So it wasn't cookies. It was Cool Ties.
Oh, yeah. Cool Ties.
Ken, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's Ken. I was actually, we'll be wearing those bad boys. Cool Ties, a partner of ours here at Drag Illustrated, do custom branded cooling neckties that are actually super badass. I've got them in our freezer right now. And unfortunately, it's too cold down
Mark
here.
Bickey was using them on his transmission this weekend. You're awesome.
Was he?
Because they make them, he makes them for the engine and transmissions and everything. And in between rounds, you can
Oh, like
cool
the
your-
one
your-
that's
your-
designed for. I thought it was like
Yeah,
just taking
you
the
can cool your
necktie
stuff
one.
down.
He took him off his neck and straight onto the car.
Oh, that'd work too.
Um,
I mean,
Luis,
it's just a bigger version of
Chiprez
that.
is saying that the chip draw should be on the track. I'm not.
It should be.
It probably should be.
I'm-
It's
but-
just so.
But not at that point in time. It's really after the racing's over, and so it's like an after hours thing that happens. So
The chip draw on Thursday night or Friday night, it'll be at World Series. It could happen on the starting line. The problem is that you're running cars,
The
when
problem
the rest
is
of the chip draws.
we're gonna
chip
have a
draws are
bunch of
happening.
torn ACLs and shoes stuck to the track or whatever. You get everybody out on the starting line at this.
Yeah,
these
it almost have to be back like
yeah.
in the water box area or
I mean,
something.
but the whole
I don't know.
yeah.
Or I do think that
or we could
it
do the
adds
VIP
to the
lounge.
value of the VIP experience. That if you want to be a part of that moment,
the VIP lounge, then that may be the place to do it. Yeah. If you have any ideas for
We'd
the
love to
VIP
hear 'em.
stuff, yeah, email me JT@dragillustrated.com.
War
I like the
Machine
party.
is asking, when is Cleat going to take over the live stream? Don't know about that, but our biggest priority right now is getting Cletus McFarland in a Pro Mod car. That's one of the next. Before I try to get a NASCAR or World of Outlaws guy.
Victor has one he can drive.
Yep, Victor has one he can drive. The only problem is Garrett's, Cletus is 6'8" or whatever, and it's virtually
He really
impossible
is.
to get him
How
into
tall is
most
he?
cars.
I mean,
So he's
Travis
so
Harvey gets in
tall.
about anything.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm not saying it's
Cletus is
impossible,
taller
but if a
than
car's
Travis.
built for someone the height of Vic and I, it's a totally different deal.
Vic is
We're
taller than you are, Wes. Don't lump him in with
no,
that.
Vic's the exact same height as I am.
No, he's the same height.
No, he's the exact same height. I
Uh-huh.
actually might be a little taller
We're gonna
than
have
he
to.
is.
We're gonna have to measure this.
I'm just making shit up.
Where's
at this
Vic? We got to
Yeah,
measure
Vic's
this.
like-
We're the
at World Series.
exact same height. You
He's
know,
like 6 foot.
then I guess I'm 6'1" ish. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I think I might be. I've been growing.
On
so
camera,
that's
you are.
cool.
Yeah, I can see that.
Finally, 41 years old. We started growing, man. That's awesome.
Dude, if we could
Sci-
get Cletus is like the
scientific
next
miracle.
one, and then I want to get a NASCAR driver. Like if we could get Tony Stewart, or if we could get one of the Bush brothers, or because, and then I want to go after and like pursue outside of motorsports. Like I look at what Donald Cerrone is doing. Donald the Cowboy Cerrone, a retired UFC fighter. He's been riding bulls, driving Baja vehicles. He'd be a great fit for what we're doing. There's a handful of others that would be able to, like, kind of in their, the twilight of their mixed martial arts career or the twilight of their motocross career, could easily transition into what we're doing and maybe add 10 or 20 years of relevance to their career, competing behind the wheel of a race car. So, Luis Chiprez says we need Wes Buck and a Pro Mod. I want to get my license, but I tell you what, I bought a race car and I've seen it like 4 times. And what I found is that I just don't, I'm gone
Because you
so
don't
much.
need to own one. You
True.
just need to rent one. Need a fire suit and a helmet.
Stevie
go
Pill says
jump in one
during
of these
track
Pro
prep,
Mods.
Flo needs to do pit walk interviews like the Chili Bowl. I'll have to go back and look at that. Stevie, why don't you send me an email if you've got a link or a favorite one, handy, wes@dragillustrated.com. I'd like to see it. If you've got one that you like, especially
they do
like.
do a lot of interviews.
We
during,
did. Yeah, they did some.
yeah, they
It's
do a lot
like,
of that stuff.
recorded, and they have them in the can, and then they play them as they've got down.
I was thinking about doing a deal like the Formula One, like walk that they do before, grid walk, I think is what they call it. Maybe doing
In the
something
lane.
like that that's
That would be
in the
good.
lanes and kind of do something that's a little, ramp up the production. I think that'd be kind of cool. I really like, that's my favorite part of it. Another person we didn't shout out that we need to is Tom Buklowski, Devin Buklowski, and the whole team at Above the Mark Production, based out of Orlando, Florida. They help us with all of our big structures, tents, totems, the entry arch, all these things that we bring in, and they do a fantastic job. They take great care of us. And DJ John, which has become a part of our family, keeping our audio engineer, if you will, who does a fantastic job, killed it with the music this past weekend, man, just killed it with the music. And it makes such a big difference. So anyways, guys, I think, let's wind this bad boy down. I do want to take a second and just thank all you guys for being a part of this. Thank you for being a part of the Drag Illustrated Winter Series, supporting these events, sharing the gospel of drag racing and all drag racing, not just the Winter Series, but everything that's happening in the sport. There's a ton of momentum right now. Energy is high, and we got to keep it going. Stay tuned to the Drag Illustrated social channels. Of course, the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel for our next piece of content. We got some cool announcements coming this week that will impact the World Series of Promo that I can't wait to share with you guys. But Mike, JT, Blake, the whole crew, a huge shout out to Ken Quartuccio Jr. and Lyle Barnett for spending their afternoon with us. And we will see you all at the racetrack.
Yep. Later, y'all.
See you in Florida. 4 weeks.
Can't wait.